I'm joined by actor Alfonso Herrera. Alfonso, so great to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, you are starring on a Fox series right now called The Exorcist.
That's
This
right.
is a continuation, essentially, of the classic 1973 film that we, all grew up and loved. I didn't watch it until I was a little older because it was a little scary for me as a child.
I have a story about that. I'll tell you
Okay, I
later.
want to hear all about the first time.
Yeah.
But so if you don't, The Exorcist. People know The Exorcist. But what was your reaction when you first found out about this potential part as Father Thomas?
At the very beginning, I thought it was very interesting because I thought, okay, who's going to touch the holy grail of horror and is going to do a TV show about that? And I was very curious about the pilot, and when I started reading it, I understood what Jeremy wanted to portray and what he wanted to show, and it was actually very, very interesting. And immediately I wanted to be part of it. So, and I remember Ben Daniels, who is also an actor from that show, from The Exorcist. He had more or less the same point of view. But when we finished the pilot, we understood that it was an amazing story, very grounded, with three-dimensional characters. Mm-hmm. And even though we were talking about extrasensorial and these entities that were trying to attack this physical space, it was very grounded. So we found that as a very interesting strength.
So talk a little bit about Father Thomas, because he's a little bit of a complicated character. I mean, he's a good guy at the heart of it, at the soul of it, but he's got his own sense of weaknesses too, right?
Totally. Also, I think that this show, one of the main strengths of it. It's the spinal cord, which is the scripts. And thanks to that, I found out that Father Thomas, even though you see him as a good, generous priest, inside of him, he has many doubts, he has fears, and those are the inner demons that he has to fight. And also, talking a little bit more about Father Thomas Ortega, he has a little church, and he has a little congregation in the south side of Chicago. And he starts to have these dreams and these images of an exorcism being performed in Mexico City. At the same time, Gina Davis' character, Angela Rance, she looks for him because strange things are happening inside her house. And when they share information, they start to connect the dots. And later on, they discover that a huge battle between good and evil is gonna begin.
Sure. If you're watching online, by the way, send us your comments, send us your questions. I'll try to get to them on the air. So that's where we're at now. So we got 2 more episodes left of this season, and I understand on Friday's episode, your character's going to be facing sort of like a life-changing decision, correct?
It is. It is. I don't want to talk a lot because I am an expert on giving spoilers.
Okay.
So I can get lost in translation and really provide some information that I shouldn't, and Jeremy and all the people from Fox would kill me. So I would definitely
want that to happen.
But believe me, it's going to be massive. The season finale is going to be in 2 parts. The first part, as you already said, is going to be this Friday, and the second part, it's going to be the end of it. It's going to be next Friday. For season 1.
Okay, so you're keeping it tight-lipped for now, but you'll have to just watch on Friday. It's only a couple of days away to see where it goes. So I have to hear the story about when you first saw The Exorcist, or because you grew up in Mexico.
Yes.
I don't know, if it was something that you watched there or then back then.
I was born in Mexico City, but I was raised in Guadalajara. Guadalajara, have you ever tried tequila? Tequila.
I mean, who
mariachi,
hasn't?
have you ever heard mariachi?
Yeah.
That's the land of tequila and mariachi. That's where I was raised. I was 10 years old. I didn't have tequila, obviously, because I was very, 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 very small. But I was 10 years old. I watched that film with my brother. He was 8 years old. Okay. So you can more or less sense who got the worst part of it. Yeah. We couldn't sleep for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
For 2 weeks. But fortunately, we were together sharing that same emotion and that same fear, and we were together in that. So, but yeah, it was very intense.
Do you scare easily now as an adult?
Not that much, but I have to also say that my wife, she's a huge horror fan.
Okay.
She's a huge horror fan. She loves it. And before this project, I didn't watch so much horror films and projects that had to do with horror. So she said, okay, if you're going to do this, you have to do it the right way. So we were going to do like a horror marathon of movies and stuff like that. So at the beginning, it was a little bit intense for me, but right now it's okay.
You're okay. Now you're okay. Well, you're married to your wife, so you got to watch it. She's a big fan. So
she's a big fan.
Did you have come back with something that's your favorite? Like, was there a takeaway, like, oh, I haven't seen this horror film, now I love it, or I really enjoyed it?
Not so long ago, I watched this film called The Witch.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's.
I hear that's really good. It takes place like back in like the 1600s, right?
1700s.
Yeah, 1700s or something. Yeah.
It takes place in the 1700s. I think it's here when the 13 colonies were still
exactly.
Here in the U.S. And at the same time, the color of it, the tone, the photography, the direction, everything is in place. So it's a very good film to watch.
So if you're not watching The Exorcist, you're watching The Witch.
Not on Fridays.
Yeah, on Fridays at 9 p.m. though.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so a lot of us also know you from Sense8, which is a Netflix series.
Yes.
For those of us who don't know what that is, like, how would you sum up that series?
It's complicated. It's 8 people around the world, interconnected, and they have to figure out why that connection exists, and they also share their abilities and at the same time their abilities and their negative side.
Got it.
So in a certain way, they have to share that. It's a Netflix show. It was directed by Lana Wachowski, Lily Wachowski, James McTeague, and it was mind-blowing to remember not so long ago. Well, I was 16 years old or 17, and I skipped school to go see Matrix. And years later, I had the possibility to work with them. So I feel very lucky and fortunate to be part of a project that directors that revolutionize the way of seeing cinema with a movie that, in a certain way, also revolutionize projects, and on a platform that is also revolutionizing and is making contents more as a democracy.
Yeah. And speaking of which, this show has a lot of, it's a diverse show.
That's right.
People from all over the world. Why is it important to have that in this day and age, in this world, diversity on television?
Specifically because the hypothesis that shows and that portrays, I totally agree with it, and it talks about it doesn't matter what's your nationality, what's the color of your skin, what's your sexual preference. We all are in this bubble, and we all are human beings. And if we accept that, and if we in a certain way acknowledge that, life is going to be a little bit easier. And it's very interesting and peculiar, specifically because of what we're living right now. And I'm not just saying here in the US. I think that right now in the world, very intense things are happening. And I think if we bear that in mind, that diversity is a strength and not division, if we bear that in mind, probably life is going to be a little bit easier.
Kind of related to that, I mean, we just saw that Donald Trump, who is our president-elect here in the States, was just named Times Person of the Year, but there's been a lot of talk about him perpetuating stereotypes amongst, different ethnic groups. What's your take on that?
I respect all the democratic processes that occur in the planet. I think that is something we have to celebrate, any democratic process in the world. But at the same time, I'm Mexican. I feel very proud of my country. I feel very proud of my roots. I feel very proud of my nationality. And unfortunately, we've been stereotyped in a way that we are not. And as I already said, if we, in a certain way, see diversity as a strength and division, right now, diversity is strength.
Right.
And unfortunately, some people are starting to share that division is strength. Well, that's going to be a little bit messy. So, I think we're entering into a very dark era right now. And I say this in a very respectful way because I'm Mexican. I don't live here in the States. But what happens here in the States, it's going to impact the whole world.
Such an influential country.
It's one of the most important economies in the world. It's one of the most, they were so committed into human rights, and seeing what's happening, it's totally the opposite on what previous presidents were doing. So it's very interesting, and time will tell.
Well, thank you for that. I know with Sense8, looking ahead, there's going to be a Christmas special, correct?
It is going to be.
And December 23rd, so right around the holidays, right around
right.
Christmas. What can we expect? We'll be finding out a little bit more about these 8 characters, these guys and gals on the show?
I think that doing a Christmas special was a very interesting idea because what happens in Christmas is that family comes together.
Yeah.
And people come together, and I think that's also the hypothesis of Sense8, of people coming together. And it's going to be a 2-hour special. I haven't seen a lot of it. I haven't seen a lot of material, but what I can say from what I read from the whole show is that if you enjoyed season 1, many questions that were set and were presented on the first season are going to be answered in this second season. So I'm looking forward on watching the show, as well as many people.
Yeah, and your character is a gay character too.
That's right.
So what's it been like doing that, and the response back home to jumping into a different character that you haven't played before?
It's great. I live in Mexico.
Yeah.
I was a little bit curious about what was going to be the response in my country, specifically because of certain way of thinking. Actually, the response was very positive, and that is something that I celebrate. That I really celebrate that specifically in Mexico, this story was shown, and it has a massive response to it and to my character. So I was very happy.
Well, that is great to hear. That's for sure. Okay, so you just became a dad for the first time. Congratulations on that. So how are you going to be spending the holidays?
With my little baby, with my family. I was in Chicago for 4 months, so I think it's a good time to go back home, to stay some time, to be some time there, and and spend some time with the family.
Okay, well, we got some questions on Facebook. I would love to
of course.
ask some of these. Heidi says, such a wonderful actor. Well, that's really sweet.
Thank you,
Heidi Comfer. And Sergio Martinez asked him if he misses being on RBD, the band. Of course, you're part of a band.
Yes.
And also as a companion television show. So do you miss it?
I think it was an amazing project, and I enjoyed it each and every single day and concert, and it was amazing. So when I look back as an amazing project, and we had the possibility to tour all over the U.S. We went to every single place in Latin America.
Yeah.
And I had a blast. That's what I can say.
Yeah. Do you keep in touch with any of the cast members in the band?
Just by social media.
Yeah.
Because every single
easy.
Every single guy, all the members from the band, they're right now very they're working so hard on their projects. So right now on social media we talk from time to time.
We're probably all over the world. You're all over the place. So it's really hard. But it made you famous. It's kind of crazy. It's like one of those things that it was such a popular show.
It made me. It was huge. It was big. It was big. We never understood the dimension of that project until it was done. It was finished.
It's great. So, are you still interested in music, and are you still performing? Singing?
No. Right now, I am very interested and very. I feel very happy with the projects that I have right now.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky and very fortunate.
So do you approach a script, say you get a script and it's an English versus a Spanish language script, do you approach it any differently than one or the other?
No.
Yeah.
Basically, it doesn't matter what the language is.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to find interesting stories, interesting characters, and if you understand the character perfectly, you can respond to any stimuli that occurs on the outside. It doesn't matter if it's in English, in French. I just finished a movie in Spain where I had to speak in Spanish from Spain because I'm from Mexico and my accent is different. So he had to speak Spanish, French, a little bit of Catalan. So it was it was very tough. It was very intense. But the emotion has to be there, and the intention. If you have a clear intention of what the character wants, then your job is going to be it's going to be easier.
Now, if you weren't an actor, what would you be doing? I read somewhere that you were interested in flying.
That's right. I was going to be a pilot. I was going to study aviation in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
But fortunately, or unfortunately, I don't know.
It's fortunate for all of us.
But fortunately, I had the possibility to explore this career, this branch, which is acting.
Okay, so we're going to see 2 more episodes of The Exorcist from this season for the rest of the year. If you had to sum up what we can expect, without giving away too much, tease us a little bit.
It's going to be intense.
Okay.
There's going to be huge battles, both internally and externally, and those battles are going to be seen, which is something that when I read it, I talked to Jeremy, which is the writer of episode 10. And he did it so brilliantly. I couldn't understood how he could portray that. So it's going to be amazing. It was mind-blowing. Specifically shooting the season finale was amazing. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well as we enjoy doing
it, right?
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait for that. Happy holidays
Thank
with
you,
your
for you
first,
too.
first newborn for the holidays, and thank you for your comments and your questions. And check out The Exorcist. It airs Friday nights, 9 p.m. on Fox. Thanks, Alfonso.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next stream. Thanks.